Hello, and welcome to another episode on the Move.Talk.Thrive podcast. Today, I am joined by Carolyn Weatherby. Carolyn is a speech pathologist based in Brisbane with over 3 decades of experience working and supporting people with complex disability. She's passionate about evidence-based communication and mealtime support and about strengthening the skills of early career clinicians. Carolyn is also a founding member of the NDIS Professionals Australia Union and advocating for allied health providers navigating ongoing sector change. I can't wait for you to listen to this conversation to talk about how she got involved with the union, her experience as a clinician, a mobile clinician as well, and what she thinks is around the corner for allied health professionals and what we can be doing about it right now. So, with that being said, let's get started.
We are child development obsessed, business besties, and mums, and we're here to spill all our secrets.
We have a combined 30 years experience working with children, and each episode we will bring you up-to-date research and evidence-based strategies to set your children up to thrive.
I'm Lizzy Dawson, Australian exercise physiologist.
I'm Emily Mackey, Australian speech pathologist,
And this is the Move.Talk.Thrive podcast. Hi, Carolyn. It's so nice to have you here today. Welcome to the Move.Talk.Thrive podcast.
Hi, Liz. It's great to be here. Thank you so much for having me on. I'm looking forward to talking with you.
I'm so excited. I have been, thinking the last couple of weeks since I was started to get involved in the social media chat that the NDIS union is running, and I was like, I need to get up to date with everything that's happening. And I thought you were a really good person to come on board, being one of the founding members. So I think a good place to start is probably just you putting in your own words a bit about yourself, what you do, and how you got involved in the union.
Okay, so I am a speech pathologist, and I've been around for a while now and working in the disability sector for most of my career. I started out in government jobs and moved into the NDIS when the government closed down our jobs, which happened when the funding moved over to NDIS. And so I have my own practice. I work just as a sole trader, and I'm a very content kind of sole trader, having my little business, seeing people with complex disabilities, which is what I really love to do, and doing clinical supervision for speechies who are new to the career or mid-career kind of thing. I really love doing that. I'm also a mum, and I've got two kids who take a lot of time and energy and attention. And I love being able to kind of juggle things a bit so that I can spend the time with them that they need. So very happily poddling along, I really would have called myself a typical middle-aged mum with a business before things started changing a bit. So that's basically me.
Have you got any speeches working for you?
No.
Awesome.
I spent ages in management and in clinical senior roles while I was working for the government. And then when I first moved into the private sector, I was in senior roles and doing a bit of management and stuff. And I just wanted to get back to clinical. I love supervision, but I love clinical, and I just wanted to do that and focus on that. And I made the very deliberate choice not to grow and to just stay small and do my thing, because it was just nice to have that less cognitive load. Just for me, I just wanted to have less to think about, ironically, and less to do, and just to be able to focus on that. And I was planning also to get into some study. and to start to understand a bit more about the neuroscience behind some of what drives, especially some of our people with intellectual impairment, and to start to understand that area a bit more as well. So
Yeah,
that's where I was sitting.
yeah,
Yeah.
lovely. And so the clients that you're working, well, firstly, I think it's amazing that you're a sole trader. I think that's such a like empowered decision.
Mm.
I have my own businesses. I've got two different businesses in it. Although I don't work clinically, sometimes I feel like it probably would be less stressful just to have my own
Yes.
flow. But yeah, it's nice to kind of talk to people that do it a different way to you. So,
Mm.
and I think that you can, manipulate your calendar, like you say, to be there for your kids, which is
Yeah.
really nice. And I really want to study at some point too. It's nice to want to learn more, isn't it? I think it's such a nice space to
Mm.
learn more about the
Mm.
conditions. So
And
that's
and look, I think there's seasons as well. I think it's okay to have seasons in your career where, you know, I was really happy managing when I was doing that. I was really happy being a clinical senior when I did that. But and one of the lovely things about what we do is that we can go back to clinical work when we want to. We can move into other roles when we want to. And there's that flexibility, and there's that ability, depending on what's going on in our lives, to have those seasons. And, sometime in the future, I might want to expand my business, or I might want to do something different. And isn't it lovely that we can do that, that we've got that flexibility
yeah,
to be able to do that? So
yeah.
I think that that's always the nice thing about our kind of roles, about allied health, that we can do that.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that's such an important message to like, younger clinicians and new grads coming out that it's flexible and you can change and you can actually change at any point as well.
Mm.
So I think that's a really nice message to get out to the community. So yeah, thank you.
Mm.
Thank you for that insight.
Yeah.
And your clients, so complex clients, are they all different ages, or do you work with the younger population?
Mm. I have worked with the little ones, and I do love doing that work. But just at the moment, I'm working with probably from about middle school, mid primary, right up to the elderly. And for me, that was a deliberate choice because I'm a sole trader working on my own. I really wanted to First of all, I really wanted to revisit some of the people that I used to work for at the start of my career. At the start of my career, I worked in an institution that was closing down, and I'd worked with people who'd come from a lot of trauma and from really difficult circumstances, who'd lived in institutions all their lives. And I I just had a connection to those people, and I really wanted to go back to that. And the other thing was that um, in my area, there are some really lovely services that are multidisciplinary, that where people can go and get the OT and the speechy and everything under one roof. And I prefer to refer the littlies to there,
Yeah.
because I think having multi-dis under one roof is a really nice thing where you can get it,
Yeah.
rather than having me in one place and somebody else in one place. NDIS has not funded that well, and I
Yeah.
think, yeah,
Yeah.
those kitchen table conversations are irreplaceable when you're
Yeah.
working multi-dis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Agree. And I guess speaking of different seasons, you're kind of entering an advocacy season, obviously,
Yes.
being one of the founding members. How did you? I mean, obviously, it's a really scary time to be working in the
Yes.
disability sector.
Yes.
So tell me a little bit about that journey and what you're experiencing.
Okay, so as a speech pathologist, we aren't registered with APRA. We get our registration through Speech Pathology Australia, and a lot of us, and I don't know whether it's the same with exercise physiology for you, but a lot of us expected Speech Pathology Australia to be advocating for us through a lot of the changes. And it started, I think, for me when Bill Shorten stood up and talked about us all using NDIS funding to get a beach deck on our holiday house. I know. And for me, that was just so wounding because I I'd seen some businesses already crashing under the financial pressures that we were all feeling even at that stage. And that's a while ago now. And I kind of look back and go, oh, how naive we were, how easy things were compared to how they've changed since then. But I remember waiting for Speech Pathology Australia to speak up in our defence, and the defence been so weak and been so disappointed. And I started to realise that we weren't going to get the defence I wanted. We weren't going to get that explanation of where the money went, and that we weren't these fat, greedy providers. And not many of the people that I've worked for had problems with paying me, but I did get pushback from one or two people about the travel I was charging and stuff like that. And funnily enough, it's always the people with the nicest cars, ironically, and who are very wealthy themselves. And I'm kind of like, well, hang on.
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
yeah, isn't it ironic? But they just I remember getting that pushback and thinking, how can I defend myself when the government is actually the one who's giving you an invitation to criticize me? And it went on from there, and then we had those travel cuts that happened in June, July last year, and didn't those hurt our businesses?
Yeah, because
And
you're mobile.
I'm mobile. I'm
Yeah.
solely mobile.
Yeah.
And the reason that I'm solely mobile is because when I sat down and looked at it, I used to work subcontract to a place that had clinic space, and I had one person on my caseload who had the capacity to visit me in the clinic and utilize that. Nobody else did. And
Yeah.
so when I went out on my own, I did consider getting a clinic, and I thought that would be a wasted space. That would be a waste of funding because no one would come and see me there.
Yeah.
And I I don't have I now have nobody who would travel to see me in a clinic.
Yeah.
Nobody who has the capacity or the ability, and nobody who would benefit from that. So what's the use of having a clinic if nobody's going to use it? So
Yeah.
I travelled to everybody, and so when the travel cuts came in, that was really going to hurt my business. I have to say too, at that stage, I did sit down and I did a little chart for myself, looking at what we were all paid, and that's when I realised the pay differences. Because I'd known about the music therapists and the art therapists. And then I looked at exercise physiology and went, hang on,
Yeah.
what's
We're
going on here?
significantly lower than everyone else. Yeah.
And what is
Yeah.
with that?
It's
Because I've seen
so
the work you
annoying.
guys do.
Yeah.
I um
Oh,
because I actually, when I'm doing swallowing work with people, one of the things that we know is that when people lose their mobility, they're more likely to get aspiration pneumonia. And aspiration pneumonia is something that kills people.
exactly.
So,
Yeah.
so for the people I work for, they need exercise physiology. But then,
Yeah.
and and the people who get paid the
So
most,
undervalued. It's like
I
just so
know.
frustrating. Yeah.
Yeah, so that was a big aha moment of sitting down and looking at the fact that even within allied health, there's all this disparity, and the people who get paid the most are behaviour support practitioners. And I work with some great behaviour support practitioners, but I'm also aware of some who have no formal qualifications.
Yeah. I
So,
was wondering that. So is there a qualification? A specific
look, most of
qualification?
most most of the ones I know do have
Yeah.
qualifications, but it is possible to work as a behaviour support practitioner just by satisfying criteria and getting ticked off on it.
Yeah, right.
So, so you can come from any anywhere and work as a behaviour support practitioner. And I have heard directly from people that, they have had a behaviour support practitioner, and when they've looked into their history, that they don't have a formal qualification in the area. It is preferred that they do,
Yeah.
but they don't always.
Yeah, right. And wasn't the whole reasoning that the music therapy got dropped? It was like aligning their qualifications with
Yes.
was it the counselor? Counseling or
Yes.
something? Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Ironically, and then we
Yeah.
look at the qualifications music therapy has to have, and I think it's the most difficult to get out of any of us, isn't it? That they have to get this high level qualification. It's really hard to get.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah. So anyway, sorry, I go off on sidetracks.
Totally fine. Yeah.
But anyway, so I was looking at that kind of stuff as well, and just getting this rage, and this is really wrong. What the government's doing is wrong. Nobody's standing up for us. And we had some movements happening at that time. In June, July, we had the Now or Never movement, which gained so much momentum, and we got that 50,000 signatures, and we submitted that, and nothing happened. There
Yeah.
was no response. And I have so much respect for the Now or Never team, and for what they achieved in that time. And I know how hard they worked, and
Who led
nothing
that?
happened. David Dinker led that, and I know Gian Ashby was involved, and I'm so sorry I can't remember who else was involved. It might have been Muriel Cummins or someone like that. But, amazing people, amazing influence, and they did a lot of work behind the scenes as well. They united the peaks. They brought them to the table together, and did this amazing work. But it's still nothing changed.
Yeah.
And to me, it became my own thinking was, well, who's the expert around making things change? And ANPA, Australian Neurodivergent Parents Association, was doing a lot of work on Facebook, and I started following them and listening to them, and they were talking about union, and I'd been a member of a union when I was a speech pathologist working for the government, and I'd seen what campaigns in the union did, and I realised that this needs to be political, and it needs to be all of us putting our voices together, and it needs to be led. We need to have people who are experienced, who have the contacts, and who have the qualifications in knowing how to make this campaign make change. And so I got on board. ANPA put this thing out one night and said, okay, Allied Health, you need to unionise. Who's in? And I immediately said, yep, I'll do it. I'm in. I didn't realise what I was signing up for when I said I'll do it. So I ended up on a group where we were talking about unions and stuff like that. And then I volunteered to make some phone calls, and that ended up being meeting with some union executives. We had a little bit of a journey before we got to Professionals Australia, because it was complicated. We had to find a union that was happy to represent us, and there were some problems with us. First of all, a lot of us are self-employed, a lot of us are small businesses, a lot of us are sole traders. That was a problem. And the other problem was that we were campaigning against NDIS. This wasn't about employers and employees, which is what unions like. This is about a whole group of people, an industry basically campaigning against the government. And a lot of unions are Labor-led or are engaged with Labor, and they weren't willing to do that. So Professionals Australia isn't aligned with any political party, so they were happy to represent us as a non-politically aligned union, and also because we were because we were uh, self-employed and stuff like that. They could do that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. It's so interesting, isn't it? Like it's just
Yeah.
I have no idea about any of it, which is why I really wanted to hear your
Yeah.
journey because I know when I jumped on that chat that was oh, when was it? It must have been in December, and Louise was running it, and she was just talking about,
Yes.
put your hand up if you want to do the electorate stuff, and just talking
Mm,
basically about how those decisions are being made and how it is actually a
mm,
political, I guess, movement, and just the narrative that the government's putting out there about provided, like
mm.
all of it is political, and
Yes.
that's how we're going to influence change. And it just
Mm,
never occurred to me. And I think sometimes it feels like it's too big. It's like nothing
mm,
we do is going to make any difference. So why bother doing
mm,
anything at all? But it has got to the
mm,
point where it is really scary as a exercise physiologist or allied health provider, small
mm,
business owner. I have had EPs leaving the industry to
mm.
go. But I mean, it's not just EPs; it's all allied health. So it's kind of
Yes.
we're losing job security. So and we and,
Yes.
and the work is so meaningful, it's so impactful.
Mm,
We see it every single day. So it's
mm,
just yeah, it's just such a shame. The whole
mm.
thing,
It
isn't it?
is. It is. Nobody goes to uni for all that time and does all that work to be devalued and then to have to leave your job because the funding's gone.
Yeah.
And it is. It's a really hard place to be in and really disappointing because it's political decisions that are being made. And it feels it is just so political because we know that they're not being made to the benefit of the people with disability. We know that this isn't about making things better for people with disability. And that's one of the hard things. The government is trying to improve things. And we know that it's not being made, there's no good intention behind it. That's the
It's
problem.
just budget, right?
Yeah, it's sheerly
Yeah.
cost cutting.
Yeah.
And it's 10% of the NDIS spend, and they're spending just as much and possibly now more on internal stuff that they're overspending on. And then we look at how much they spend on the art processes, the tribunal where people go to
Yeah.
challenge decisions and get, NDIS gets overruled most of the time.
Yeah.
And that's so much money wasted. And
So true.
yeah, yeah. So we know this is purely political, and I think that
Yeah.
that's what really it's purely political, which means we can use political means to turn it around. These
Yeah.
are decisions that they've decided to do for political reasons, and because it's political, we can use political ways to turn it around.
Yes, which
It's
is great. I'm
yeah.
like that first meeting that I jumped on, I was like, oh, this is so interesting. I didn't think of it this
Mm,
way. I was kind of in
mm,
this like, and you get in this little, I think as exercise physiologists, we've had to fight for to educate people on what we do for
mm,
so long. So we're kind of used
mm,
to having to educate, but this has just been like
mm,
another hit, and we're
mm,
like, oh my gosh, like we're gonna have to find something else to do. Um,
mm,
so to be on that meeting and hear just what we can be doing was really
mm,
inspiring. And just talking to, other people like yourself to hear what you're experiencing and what you're doing and what we can do. Because I think when you do something, it helps you feel like you
mm,
are making a difference, not just
mm,
sitting there feeling anxious about what's to come. Um,
mm, mm.
so yeah, you were saying earlier before we jumped on that you think it's the first time that small businesses are really looking like they're going to be pushed up against the wall.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and I think this is this is the scary thing. This year is the first time that I've started to really think this could be it for small businesses, for us as small providers and small businesses. So what we are seeing is a lot of closed grants coming out. And what that means is that the government is selecting a group of providers, and they're large providers, and they are opening business grants of hundreds of thousands of dollars, and they are only allowing these large providers, and it's often 7 or 8 large providers, sometimes it's only 5, and they're saying you can apply for these business grants to provide these services. Nobody else is allowed to apply. Okay, and then
How is
that's
that
it.
even fair? Like
It's not. It's not fair. It's not. It's something that the government is allowed to do, but it's not fair, and it's not okay, and it's against everything that NDIS had originally said it was to do. So there are things happening from the union to challenge this, and we're working closely with some of the disability representative organisations who are saying this isn't good for people with disability. But what it does is it's taking the funding. It will over time start taking funding out of NDIS, and it will mean that the money is held by these large organisations, and they will control where that money goes.
Yeah, right. So you think the funding will be taken out of NDIS plans? The government is then going to give a grant to these big
Yeah,
companies, so a lump sum that they can then use to
yeah,
provide the therapies, which is just going
yeah,
to wipe out all the small businesses because they can't even
yeah.
apply for grants.
Well, what can happen is that there can be consortiums or contracts where the
Yeah,
big
right.
businesses will then say to the small businesses, we can't do all this ourselves, so we will charge you a fee, or we will subcontract you at a lower cost
Yeah.
because we need to keep some of that money ourselves to do whatever. And so we'll pay you, say, if you're getting 140 billables under the current rates, it might be 105
Yeah.
per hour
Yeah.
for billable hour instead. So they'll take a chunk, and you'll get a lower chunk to do your thing than you're getting now. So even despite the fact that we've shown the ability to run our businesses, and that we actually, as small businesses, run with lower overheads at a lower cost, more effectively, more efficiently, and provide effective, evidence-based, beautiful services that are individualized to these children.
Yeah. With really low
Apparently we can't
profits,
do
like we're
that.
not even making any money on the current rate.
No,
So
no. Our overheads are so low, and it's there was research last year that showed that it was the highest profit any allied health organisation under NDIS was making was 2%.
yeah.
It's crazy.
So basically it sounds like they're they're getting a tender for these bigger operations to then
Mm,
effectively be the middleman to manage it so that they
mm,
don't have to manage. So then it would be up to that big company to make sure quality control,
mm.
you know, fraudulent, like making sure that
Yep.
there's, all of that so that they're not having to manage it.
Yeah.
You reckon?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. And Thriving Kids is part of this. So
Yeah.
when you look at the Thriving Kids proposal and that report they released just before Christmas,
Yeah.
I haven't sat down and read the 200 pages, I have to confess.
Yeah.
I
That's
know
what
it's
ChatGPT is
traumatized.
for.
Well, I know how much it's traumatized the people who have, and
I
I'm
know.
kind of, I know, but the summaries I've read of it, and having talked to people who have read it, basically it's talking about big businesses being the block funding to big businesses, which is what we've just talked about, where they get big amounts of funding to manage and they control the services, and it's very much. it's not individualized services like we're giving now. It's
Yeah.
very much there's a hub, there's spokes, there's places that control the assessment, that control the intake of kids, and they send them off to do parent training programs. They send them off to do group programs. They send them off to the schools or the health system or other larger organisations to do these kind of group or in place type programs. And
Going to work so well, isn't it? That's just going to be work really well for the kids that can't even get to school and
yes, that's right. Yes, it's just it's not. We know evidence-based best practice is individualized, it's flexible, it's designed for that child. It's around having, yes, it's, we know ideally that if we're working with a child in the environment that they function in, that's best. But we also know, especially in Queensland, where you and I are both based, that that if a service is based in school with a child, that the parents and the family or the carers don't see any of that at home.
Mm. Yeah,
We
yeah, that's right.
we
Yeah,
don't get any information about what's going on at school, or we get very little. So
yeah,
if we get that model where the service is at school, we're not going to have parents getting any strategies for managing the child at home.
which is exactly
Um,
what they need.
yes,
Exactly
yes,
what they
that's
need.
right.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree. My son he's in private speech and in has a speech at school, and I get nothing from the school. I'm like, what are you working on? I need to know so I can do it at home because we need to repeat it. We need to be,
Mm.
practicing. That's where the change is going to take place, but we get nothing.
Right. And that's the
Yeah.
typical story. I've worked with kids, and I work with kids who have pod books sent home from the school. These really expensive 30-page books, communication books. And I'll say to the parent, "So have they sent home any information on how to use this?"
Mm.
And the parent
Yeah.
goes, "No, I don't know what to do with it."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
So all the expense and all that effort. But so so with Thriving Kids, we're also looking at the increased stress it'll place on our existing systems. And from the fight that we're looking at between the federal and the state government, I really don't know where that additional funding, where that additional staffing and stuff like that's going to happen. There's a lot of
Yeah.
unanswered questions, and it doesn't sound like there's much agreement between the federal and state government about how that's going to work. Virtually
No.
none.
No one seems to, there's no kind of hard answers on anything. I was talking to ESSA rep, our governing body,
Mm.
and they're actually going to Parliament next week. And they're taking an
Yep.
exercise physiologist and a family down. I spoke to them about heading down, but I didn't have a client that could come. So, which is really good. So I feel like they're doing some advocation.
That's great.
They're doing quite a lot, and some would argue with that. I'm in fairly close contact with them, but I think we've always had to advocate because, like I said before, I feel like we're not as established as speechies and OTs. So I feel like they're constantly sort of advocating and we need to. And there's no, like we said, we all need to be doing everything that we can right now to be
Mm.
heard, and it is very much
Mm.
political. So I think that one of the most frustrating things for me from a clinician perspective is that there's so much about us making, clinically justified decisions and backing up everything that we do all the time and these reports and all of this stuff. But then they're making decisions on funding that are not based on any
Mm.
clinical justification. They're not clinical decisions at all, which is really, really
Mm.
frustrating because it's so unaligned with what they've been telling us that we have to do the whole time. And I'm happy to do that. I like working in a clinical way and I'm very confident in being able to back up what we do. But to then have them making decisions and taking funding away and decision away, it's just really unaligned.
It really, look, the NDIS is like the worst toxic boyfriend ever.
Mm,
It's like
totally.
it, we're completely gaslighted. We're
Yeah.
completely, it's such a gaslighting thing to do with us because they tell us we need to do one thing, and they're off doing the complete opposite while they tell us what to do. And I think we've been mentally. I feel like almost like we've been in this horrible relationship where we've been mentally tortured
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
honestly it feels like that. And
Yeah.
there are so many clinicians who I have spoken to, especially as the union has started, who are traumatized,
Yeah.
genuinely traumatized. And some of them have come to the union and we've been able to offer support and offer them hope and stuff like that. Some have not come to the union because they've left the industry. And sometimes, I know of people with 30 years experience and knowledge who have left the industry, and what a loss.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
I think it, like, the demands that we're going to MPs in the electorates with, kind of, you've brought up some of that. One of the things that we're asking for, and I think it's a really reasonable ask, is that NDIS listens to us when they're making decisions,
Yeah.
and that they listen to people with a disability, because the people with a disability are the ones who are the most impacted by this decision. And we are people who we see the decisions being made, and then we see how that plays out in the lives of the people that we work for. And a lot of us are mums of kids with a disability. I am. And it sounds like your child has some needs as well. And we see it being played out as carers, and often as people who have disabilities ourselves as well. And we know, we get it. We get what's happening in a way that these decision makers do not get. And so that's one of our asks when we go and talk to MPs. We're asking them, would you listen to us, and would you listen to people who have a disability? And it's not hard. They're doing a lot of consultations at the moment, and that's something that we invite union members to do, is be part of the consultations, and we share the load and we try and lighten the load so that everybody can contribute to a union consultation rather than everybody doing their own out there in allied
Yeah.
health land.
Yeah.
But we don't know how much we're getting listened to.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, it's a big thing that we need NDIS to do better. The other things that we're asking for some of those travel cuts and stuff like that to be reversed,
Yeah.
and we're asking for them to look at fairer pricing. And
Yeah.
I think fair pricing, especially, for exercise physiologists, why aren't you being paid the
Yeah.
same as the rest of us? That to me would be fair.
Yeah, and I think what they're saying is that they did research on our private rates and the private, yeah, which is just so frustrating because I just think I've got this thing, and I don't know whether this is across all allied health, but we're health professionals and everyone's why is that they just want to help people. And so
Oh,
we don't charge enough money for it.
no,
So
no.
I have advocated a lot within the EP sector to charge like the NDIS rate. Do not charge less. But it is really hard because then people don't get
Yes,
access to our services. So
yes,
it's yeah, I think that, I mean, that was their justification on the price. And I think physio just went down in
yes.
their fees. So but I mean, we're seeing exercise physiology be removed off plans for just like with absolute, disregard of the impact. We've had, um, yeah, young men in one of our clinics just all of a sudden their funding is gone. They're trying to pay for it themselves because they just value it so much, and they've got these beautiful relationships. It's just It's really, really devastating to see.
Mm,
So, I mean, there's all the business and the profession and industry
mm,
impacts, which are very frustrating and scary and very real for us working in it. But then when you look at the outcome for the families, that's just so emotionally exhausting and triggering to think about
mm,
these people and what they're going
mm,
to lose. And if
mm,
they're going to be forced into big companies or big companies using the same providers, and the providers aren't going to be as happy
mm,
because we're not going to have as much flexibility in the way that we do things, and we're not going to be paid as
mm,
well, so it's going to be unsustainable.
mm,
Um, it's all going to impact, for us
mm.
working with children, these children. Like it's,
Yes, and we've got a really scary future coming up for the next generation, and we've
yeah,
just had um, because I've been working for 28 years now, and I've seen I guess I've seen generations where they've been underserviced, and I've seen the adults that have come out of those generations. But this last generation I've seen has come through NDIS, and it's made such a difference to their lives, and it's given me so much hope. You know, for the future, because I've seen that acceptance. I've seen these kids have fruitful lives. I've seen them be able to get jobs. When you see a guy say, "I want to get a girlfriend" as his goal, instead of being able to stay in a room um, and and be self-regulated, because that's all been worked on.
yeah.
That's all been sorted out, and it's just amazing. And we're going to see this lost generation, and that's such a source of grief, I know, to the disability-led organisations out there, that all this stuff that's been gained is going to be lost. Um, I think one of the big things that I learned when we went down to Canberra last year, the union went down and did some had conversations with some senators and so on, did some campaigning. And one of the things that we learned was how to tell our stories, um, and how to tell um, stories of what we've seen, and how to tell stories of how the cuts and the changes to NDIS have affected us and affected the families that we work for. And I think it's such a powerful tool, and I think it's what I believe in the most as we start to head into electorates and talk to MPs and tell them what we want, is that ability to have those stories of those young men in your clinics, and to have those stories of those businesses, and to have those stories of those staff who have left the businesses after their years of training, and to be able to tell those stories to these politicians, because I think they believe their own rubbish.
Mm,
And it's when they've got somebody, when we've got somebody standing in front of us and telling us their story, suddenly you realize
yeah.
that what you believe isn't true.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. It is about this, it's storytelling, isn't it? I think
Mm.
that's the way that you can engage them. How was that trip to Parliament? Because you did have some success there, didn't you?
Yeah, we did. We did. So we didn't meet with as many as people as we were hoping to. Parliament is such, the senators were sitting that week, and they kept getting called back into stuff. But we met with a couple of the senators, and one of the amazing things was meeting with a particular senator who saw us just as a routine meeting, and you could see that when we walked in. And we had a couple of people tell stories of the impact on them and the impact on some of the people that they worked for. And you could see her her face change as her stories were told, and you could see her body language change, and you could see her engagement change. And by the end of that meeting, she'd offered us a standing committee, and she'd offered us a whole lot of assistance. And a standing committee means that there's going to be a group of them. She was offering to host a group of senators to get together to discuss these issues and to take action on these issues. And that is a hugely powerful thing, because the senators and the crossbench senators, the ones who aren't Labor, still hold a lot of power and can make and break things. and decisions and bills and stuff. So that was a really powerful meeting and something that we were really excited about. And I think for us, the power of that was both in starting to see that influence and see that change happen, and getting those meetings that were effective. But it was also in how it changed how we viewed what we could do. And
Mm.
I think that we all need that moment where we realise that actually this could work and we could make change, because we've become so beaten down and so disempowered over the past few years. And I guess that's something I really want to encourage everybody with is, and I really wish I could take every person and say, come on, just join the union, and
Yeah.
you will get that sense of empowerment, because it it's that moment when you see that actually we can change the way someone thinks, and that we can change the way that this whole thing's playing out. At the moment, it is looking really, really grim, and
Yeah.
we have to face up to that. And I don't think we can't stop everything that's in play from happening. We're not going to be able to stop it all. But I think that we can bend the pathway, and I think we can certainly stop some of it.
Yeah.
And by going political and by going for these MPs and by talking to them about, we can actually change the way people vote
Yeah.
in your electorate,
Yeah.
which we can do. We can definitely do. Um,
And
we,
that's what they want to sway the votes. So that was part of that meeting. It was
yeah,
like they
yeah,
want votes. So if there's enough people making noise about what they want,
yeah,
they will make decisions based on what's going to get them votes. So
yes.
we all
So,
need to be out there talking about it
yes,
so that they,
yes.
know they're going to vote for them if they make the right decisions.
Yes,
Yeah.
and we'll actually be getting signatures. So
Yeah.
we can actually, and we already know that the people that we talk to and see on a day-to-day basis, that there's some families and some carers and some people that we work for who will sign a form saying, I'm not going to vote for you
Yeah.
if you don't make these changes. We know that. And it's not that hard to get some of those signatures. And there are other people out there who, if we tell the story, if we tell that story too, and I've done it with a number of people where they've said, "Oh, but there's a lot of fraud, Carolyn, and there's a lot of this," and
Mm.
I've told them a few stories, and they've gone, "Oh, I didn't realise that. That's terrible. No, no, that's the government can't do that. The NDIS can't do that," and they've turned. They've changed their
Yeah.
opinion, and so it's about changing the minds of the MPs. And the thing that we're really going to change their minds about is when they're looking at their job on the line. But it's also about changing the minds of the people that we see on a daily basis
Yeah.
and getting their signatures to say, we care about this issue. And there's a lot of people, we know how many people are affected by disability. We know how many people, if your business vanished, if your two businesses vanished, how many people would that hurt?
Yeah. Yeah. Hundreds.
Yeah,
Hundreds a week. Like
hundreds.
it's just,
Yes,
and that's just my
yes,
two little tiny businesses. So
yes, and
it's, yeah. Yeah.
yeah, and that's something I challenge everybody to think about is how many people would be distressed if your business wasn't there anymore.
Mm.
And those are the people who will sway the MPs' minds, and this is where our power lies.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's
So we
not
do
just
have the
us, it's
power to
the
change things.
yeah, that's right. It's our community. So so
Yes.
what is it that the union, like what are the next steps in the union?
Mhm.
What are we all doing?
Okay, so very soon, we're going to start going and meeting with MPs and North Side, aren't you? So
Yeah. Yep.
there's
Where
some
are
very
you?
exciting news for you. I'm
Oh,
South Side.
oh,
Yep.
cool. Okay.
So
Awesome.
we've got Brisbane covered. We've got a
Yep.
good part of Brisbane
Yes.
covered with our service areas, but we're going to start meeting with MPs, and we're going to go in and we're going to talk to them about what we want the
Mhm.
NDIS to do. And then we're going to start petitions, and those petitions are going to be around making those changes, and they're going to be around the votes that they'll
Yeah.
get or not get if
Yeah.
they make changes or fail to make those changes.
Mhm.
And once we've done that, that'll start to show them that if they get those votes, they can sway the election, or if
Yeah.
they lose those votes, they might lose the next election. And that's when we'll start to see those conversations with people like Mark Butler and Jenny McAllister, who are influencing the decisions, and even Anthony Albanese start to happen, where they say, actually, we need to stop what's going on with the NDIS, or we need to change this, or these decisions need to change.
Yeah. 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 Even
And
like just modify it in some way.
yeah, or just stop this, or
Yeah.
let's put a pause on Thriving Kids for now. Let's
Yeah.
let's do some more consultation.
Yeah.
Let's
Yeah.
listen to the community.
Yeah.
Let's
Because
show
they
that we're
haven't made
listening.
any decisions yet. So can we just
Yeah.
hold on that thought? Like,
Yes, that's
if you
right.
haven't made any decisions, let's not jump ahead and know that it's just destined to cause complete havoc in
Yeah,
this
yeah.
sector. Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, the MPs and the government is will have to bend to what the public wants because we vote for them.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that's right.
yeah.
And with the Thriving Kids, so they're saying they'll basically do it in schools and then they'll use these big companies. Um,
Mm,
and so do you think they'll, because they're talking about like having Medicare um, rebate codes for
mm.
it. Uh, so do you think that as allied health providers will be able to do it through Medicare, or do you think it's going to be these large companies?
I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know.
no one knows. Oh,
No, I don't know. I know that accessibility might be an issue because what Medicare do we have that doesn't have a gap fee?
yeah, I
That's
know.
what,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah,
Um, and how many of the families that we work for have the ability to pay
yeah,
gaps?
yeah.
Yeah. So, because so many of the families have multiple kids with disability, have mum not able to work because
Yeah, that's
the
right.
kids are
That's
so
right.
complicated, and
Yeah.
often there's only one parent around.
Mm,
So it can be incredibly hard. I don't know how that's looking, but I know that the what I'm hearing is that there's an expectation that a lot of families will have very limited access to any individualised services, and it'll be a lot harder for them to be able to access it.
mm,
That, the wealthier families will not have a problem, but that's always been the case. But
mm.
it will be the families who are socioeconomically
Where
battling
we're
that
where
will.
we are busiest, like the
Yes.
lower socio areas, we are busiest.
Yeah. Yeah. And look, then we've got to look at how it's going to affect our remote and rural families who are
Yeah.
already struggling to access services, and how it's going to affect our First Nations families
Mm,
who already struggle to access services, and how it's going to affect those families who maybe First Nations, maybe not, who struggle to go to medical centres, or struggle with schools, or struggle with other formal services. For example, we know that there are families out there who don't vaccinate, and they're not going to go to a nurse-led centre, which
yeah.
is one of the propositions.
Yeah.
So what's going to happen to those kids and those families? Because they still access NDIS, but where are they going to go? So, there are
Incredibly
so many.
short-sighted, isn't it?
Yeah,
Incredibly
we've been
short-sighted.
going, it is, we've been going to the children, but this means that the children will be expected to go to services, to large services. All of a sudden, the services are becoming the centre of the model rather than the children being the centre of the
Mm,
model.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's just creating so many barriers. Like what I like to do in my business is it's about removing barriers because
Yes.
people that really need to move generally don't want to move. So we need to
Mm.
remove as
Yes.
many barriers as possible so that we make it easier for them to come and work on themselves and move in a way
Yes.
that's enjoyable to them. So we're just creating more barriers and the
Yes.
travel cuts and getting them to come to a service or having it run through a school is creating a barrier because getting them there
Yes.
is just really, really hard. We were all mobile and then we got a clinic and we were like, okay, let's
Mm.
get everyone into our clinic, which, as you said earlier, is really difficult. So now we're probably maybe 50% in the clinic, but it's very
Mm.
busy for, a few hours in the afternoon because we're working with
Mm.
kids and the rest of the day, the team is out being mobile. So it's just,
Mm.
yeah, it just all feels very short-sighted. They're trying to, save money on the budget and but the impact, like the flow-on impact that this is going to have, like I know in one of the chats they were talking yesterday about the flow-on impact for these people being incarcerated because they're not communicating properly and they're, like all of these, like it's just going to be, yeah, it just can't happen. So
It
we need to do
can't,
better.
and
But yeah,
we
yeah,
have to stop it. Yeah,
yeah,
and you're so correct. It's removing barriers, and isn't it, as a small business, or as a you're a local business, and you've got the flexibility and you've got the ability to remove barriers. You move things and you manipulate things and you change things because you're able to do that, and you're a clinician. You've got a clinical background, so you understand the ways to do that. And I have to say, I've seen exercise physiologists in action, and I love the way you get people moving and you remove
yeah.
those
Thank
barriers. It's so
you. Yeah,
cool. But it is about removing barriers. Big companies don't get that, and medical models don't get that, and educational models, I have to say, they're working on it, but we're
yeah,
the ones who get that, aren't we? We're the
yeah,
ones who understand.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So well, I guess what's your message to clinicians and allied health professionals and families out there at the moment? What is one thing that you would like to share with them that they can do to kind of contribute to this movement that we're trying to create, I guess?
Okay. Okay. I think for the NDIS providers out there, I think the big thing is to join the union if you can. Get involved. It's not a big. It sounds like a big ask, but we're not asking a big ask. Just get involved and get on board, in whatever way you feel comfortable to do, um, and become part of this movement, because we're all uniting. We're getting under one voice. Have your say in what's happening as well. Please have your say. And for families, take care of yourselves. Please take care of yourselves first. You are really important. You are, so important for your child and for yourselves. But um, talk to your MPs if you feel up to it. If you don't, when those petitions come around, sign them. Let your MPs know that this matters to you and that you vote and that your voice is important. And remember that your voice is important and that you're important. Yeah, I
Mm.
think that would be my message.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, I agree. And I think the more people, professionals that we can get in this union, I think the louder the noise and the more supported you feel. I think there's just so much
yeah,
communication in those groups that help feel like you're not alone in this situation.
yeah,
You can get a better understanding of what's going on. I've just found it really supportive, and I've kind of been able to dip in and out based on my
yes,
availability, which isn't a lot of availability, but I'm kind of trying to do it in a way that's sustainable and I can, do what
yes,
I can. And I think that's a really important message that the more
yes,
people we have, then everyone can do a little bit, or rather than,
yeah.
a very few people doing a lot, which is not sustainable. I think.
That's right. And it's very much designed to be that. We completely get that everybody, look, nobody's at this point without feeling a bit burnt out. We all have families, we all have other stuff on, and it's very much understood that we're not going to ask a lot. It's pretty much, it's volunteer. It's about coming in when you can.
Yeah.
And when you can't, that's fine. Nobody's going to ask questions. Nobody's going to push. It's really about, if there's something that you can do or something that you're motivated to do, absolutely go for it. If there's a lot going on for you, you just step out for a bit, and that's fine too. We have appreciated you so much, though, Lizzy. It's been
Oh,
lovely.
thank
It's
you.
been wonderful having you on board.
Oh, thanks.
And
Been
yeah,
really, really helpful for me. I think because I just was feeling really overwhelmed with what was going on and how I could, advocate. So it's been really good to, yeah, just be a part of it and look at like just
yes,
when I can. Like yesterday, I got my nails done and I just sat there and read through everything that was going on in the group because I can come back to a lot of messages and I'm like, oh my gosh! But I just found a pocket of time and
yeah,
just to see what everyone's doing and how passionate everyone is. And I think it's really good for us all to come together anyway, and
yeah.
hopefully we come out stronger on the other side.
I hope so. I hope so.
Yeah,
I think we're going to have some wins. I don't know what they are yet, but
yeah,
I know we will have some wins,
yeah,
and that it's always a good feeling.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
yeah, it's very addictive. You always want to go back for more when you have a win. So
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for joining me today and just sharing your insights around what is going on and what we can do. And I do strongly urge anyone that is able to join the union. We'll pop the link in the show notes. And where can people find you if they want to reach out? You're on LinkedIn.
um, yes, I'm on LinkedIn. I'll send you my LinkedIn info actually, and I'm very happy to be contacted on LinkedIn. That's probably the best place to find me, I think, is LinkedIn. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll send that through.
Awesome. That's amazing. We'll pop that in the show notes. And if anyone's got any questions, obviously more than happy to reach out to me as well, and I can help where possible. But it's really important now that we all get it on board and get our voices heard for those families. And yeah, we can navigate the next steps in this wild sector that is yeah, a bit uncertain at the moment.
Okay, thank you so much, Lizzy.
Thanks, Carolyn. Wow, what an amazing conversation. Carolyn has been so generous with sharing her experiences and knowledge and sharing with us exactly what she thinks is happening around those changes in NDIS and thriving kids. I think for me, definitely being part of the union has just been a amazing source of information and just being a step in front when the information seems to be quite difficult to obtain, so therefore plan. So I really encourage any allied health professionals wanting to contribute to their profession at the moment in a way of advocacy to join the union or just to stay up to date. So even if you don't have time to participate, just it's a great way to stay up to date with what's happening. If you need to, you can reach out to either myself or Carolyn. We'll put the information in our show links. But more than anything else, I hope you enjoyed our conversation today and got some amazing pieces of advice that you can put into practice this week. All right, thanks guys. Bye.